Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here, and I really do appreciate your time. I am going to be commenting on this entire conversation that's going on social media right now with Macy Gray and Bette Midler. It originally started with Bette Midler making a tweet where she was basically talking about how she feels. She feels that due to what's going on with the politics on the right and due to what's going on with the politics on the left, that she feels that women and our womanhood in a traditional sense is under attack. And so Macy Gray was on this television talk show, and the host basically asked her, "Hey, like, what do you feel about this tweet? What are your feelings about it?" And she answered honestly, and this is what she said.
And I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is comedian Flame Monroe. I am a transgender woman or person, however you describe it, and this message is directly for Macy Gray. Macy Gray, I want to tell you out the words of my mouth from my portion of the LGBTQIA plus community that I wholeheartedly support you and thank you for seeing the real world for what it is. I do not believe that you are transphobic or homophobic or any other kind of phobic. I believe that you know science and biology, because here are the three things. Gender is a fact, identity is how you feel, and sexuality is your desire. And you are absolutely right, because until you have the heart and mind of a woman, I don't believe that you could ever possibly be a biological woman. Trans women are trans women. Trans men are trans men. Women are women and men are men. It is as simple as that. There shouldn't be any argument about this.
So because she answered honestly, this is now bringing up a lot of backlash. People are doing what they typically do on Twitter. They are calling her to be canceled. They're calling her out her name. They're making fun of her appearance. They're saying that her body of work is irrelevant. Like, who are you? Cares about what you think. And they're basically doing what people with the loudest group on Twitter tends to do when views are expressed that don't perfectly line up with the far left narratives about trans issues. So basically, how I feel on this subject is very simply this. I don't feel like anything that Macy Gray said was transphobic, and I feel like what she said was factual. It was a simple fact. Now, the reason why I can say that what she said was factual is because trans women are not biological women, they are socially women. We understand that getting plastic surgery, that taking hormones, and any of the sort of things that trans women or trans men have to undergo to complete their transition to look like what they feel that they should look like is not a biological experience. It's not. It's a social experience. It's a physical experience. It's a outside transformation that allows them to feel better. I'm specifically talking about people who have gender dysphoria, and looking at their bodies as is dysphoric to them. It's disturbing to them. And so going through this transition, for some, not all, but for some, helps them feel comfortable, helps them experience peace and joy in a way that they wouldn't have had they not transitioned. And so, for the most part, when we see someone who is putting all of this effort into looking and presenting like the gender they feel that they were supposed to be, most people on average are going to be respectful of that. Most people know socially when you're interacting with that person to use the pronoun that they are presenting as, to refer to them as the gender they are presenting as, unless you're dealing with people who are like hateful and don't have the ability to understand a person's human experience as a trans person. For the most part, even if they're just scared to, people are going to be respectful of the fact that they see someone presenting as a certain gender. Now, the issue that I have with this conversation that I feel like is really on the fault of the liberals and the people who are kind of put at the forefront of these political movements that are kind of responsible for spinning these narratives about trans people's experiences. The major issue here is this. In reality, a lot of people are not having interpersonal relationships with trans people. right? Trans people make up a small portion of the population, and that is why it is unlikely that you will have your own personal interaction with a trans person. And what this causes is people to not have any experience or understanding or any sense of relating to a trans person's experience because they don't interact with them. And a lot of time on social media, we tend to be drawn to topics and subjects and spaces that provide us with an echo chamber that validates our own opinions and our own beliefs that we typically already have. It's called confirmation bias. And so for this reason, a lot of times people are not extending outside of themselves to interact or talk or consume content of people of other life experiences than their own. What begins to happen is when you have these appointed activists spending these narratives and saying certain things that, oh well, this certain types of gendered language is not inclusive, and so now we should stop telling women, oh hey, let's not call ourselves women anymore, let's call ourselves birthing persons, let's call ourselves menstruating persons. This is where you start to have people who are struggling with what's actually being asked of them, and the humanity of of trans people is getting missed because there's so much focus, usually by cishet activists, that are saying, hey, don't use this language. If you use this language, you're this. And then you have actual trans people who probably don't even feel this way, who their desire is to blend in, right? Their desire is to have a seamless, sort of transition into the gender that they want to be. They don't want people going around asking pronouns. They want to, their whole goal is to be passable and comfortable. And then you have these issues that probably aren't even relevant to a trans person, because I'm telling you, I highly doubt that trans women are really worried about the word woman being on tampons, right? I highly doubt that a trans man, when it's that time of the month, that they're really worried about the word woman being on tampons. I think those types of issues are specifically, like I always say, they happen on social media, and people think that because it's happening, because it's so prominent on social media, that this is the conversations that people are really having in real life. And then when you throw on top of that virtue signaling, you have so many people saying things and talking about things in a manner that, again, may be over speaking or drowning out the voices of actual trans people. The other issue here is that we have gotten to a point, thank God, at least in society, where, like I was saying, we understand that if someone is willing to put in the effort to present as the gender that they truly believe that they were meant to be, most people are going to respect that. Most people don't have an issue with that, right? Even if you have no other interactions with trans people, if you understand that this person feels this way, most people are able to just relate in their mind, okay, well, I'm going to be respectful of what this person identifies. This is why I say all the time, when we're talking about gendered issues that correspond to biological male and female issues, that is those conversations will be exclusive. They will be. And that's not a problem. That is not an issue. That's not a slur. That's not transphobic. That is the reality. And a lot of time, again, it's the left's fault. The reason why certain issues constantly bounce around in like the sphere of controversy and constantly go around. Every year it's the same problem. Every year it's the same issue, is because we're talking about these concepts in a way that is not helpful. We're talking about these concepts in a way that brings down acceptance and understanding, again, of the human experience of trans people. That's really what the issue is. Every single time there's this blow up on social media regarding trans rights, there's this shift to talk about things that are more or less not that important to actual trans people, that are more so important to the activists who are virtue signaling for social points, for social currency. That's really what this comes down to. Because, perfect example, as a woman, as a biological woman, as a biological female who psychologically corresponds with my sex, and I psychologically agree with my sex. And so my gender expression, my gender, and my sex are all cohesive. I will never understand the experiences of a trans woman. I will not be included, nor do I want to be included in conversations about what are the best hormones that give the best results, that go the best with, pair the best with your body, that doesn't create other sort of issues, other sort of harmful side effects. I don't know anything about tucking. I don't know anything about properly shaving your face. I don't know about any of this stuff because these are not my experiences. This is not my life. So if trans women are online discussing a specific issue that is in relation to their experiences, I'm not upset about that. I don't need to be included in that conversation because it does not involve me. And that's perfectly fine. Because there's going to be some avenues where we overlap. There's going to be some avenues where we separate. Because our experiences are different. Our needs are different. So if as a woman, I am talking about specific gender issues, specific biological sex issues, like abortion, things that relate to feminine health and tampons and all of those sort of things, that's about me. That's about women who are like me. And so when we start to get to this place where you can no longer say facts, and that is equated to homophobia or that is equated to transphobia, again, all this does is decrease the rate of progression in which people will be accepting to trans issues and trans humanity and trans problem and trans deaths. Because we're spending so much time talking about shit that doesn't actually matter. There are trans women who know they are not biological women. They have no desire to pretend to be biological women. They have no desire to upset or come in and try to police biological cishet women on how they can talk and identify themselves. That's not their priority. I'm telling you, I know trans women intimately. I have intimate friendships of trans women, and let me tell you, they are not concerned about these things. They're not. They're not trying to take women's spaces. They're not trying to take over. That's not how most of them feel. It's just not. Why it was so important that Flame Monroe came out and said what they said was because they wanted to say, like, hey, I am a trans person or a non-binary queer adjacent person, and I don't have a problem with what she said. Getting surgery does not make you a woman. It doesn't. Not automatically. It doesn't. And people should be able to say things like that without automatically being attacked. And the last thing I wanted to say before I go is another issue that I have with these sort of conversations is that a lot of time when progress is happening and when the world is changing and when social norms are changing and concepts are changing and people are moving from one, mindset to another and sort of, learning about another, and they're close to accepting another, where we usually tend to go wrong is the mindset of, I want you to accept me and you don't have to understand. You can't ask questions. There doesn't need to be any real grounded conversations in which we exchange. I just need you to accept everything that I do. I just need you to accept whatever, I want. That's no interaction goes that way. Well, that's not how communication goes. Communication is an exchange. If you as a queer person or as a trans person, if you feel that there should be this sort of acceptance for you, and frankly, you need cishet folks to validate you, to be allies with you, to bring your issues into common conversations, there has to be more of the activists and more of these people who are kind of at the forefront of these conversations that are willing to have these conversations. Because if the first thing you do is try to cancel somebody because they say something that you don't like or because their opinion is different, you are actually doing more damage to whatever it is that you feel that you're trying to move forward in. You're doing damage to that. It's very, very damaging when you take the focus of the human experiences of a marginalized group of people and you start nitpicking all of these things that don't actually matter. I'm telling you, this is one of the reasons why I don't even consider myself a liberal anymore. I all my life I have identified as a liberal, as a classical liberal, but I just feel like the left a lot of times they just get in their own way. They get in black people's way. They get in queer people's way. They have strange leaders and have very strange ideas, and it's usually just a mess. So that's all I have to say on this topic. Comment below if you're feeling what I'm saying, or comment below if you're not feeling what I'm saying. All that I ask is that you be respectful, especially on topics such as this one. Please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and have your notifications turned on so that you don't miss any of my random posts. But yes, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.